So I just watched Batman The Long Halloween Part 1. I got it a day early because I'm cool and press-y and stuff. Now, I've seen a lot of animated Batman movies in my time, and even though I consider myself to be a pretty big Batman fan, there are a lot of animated Batman movies that don't really fall into my rewatch constantly list. But this one, I think, is going to probably make the list. But before I get too into it, I think you should know. You are about to hear a review of Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 animated film from a guy who has never read Batman The Long Halloween, the comic book. Now, why should you listen to me? In previous podcast episodes of ours or other videos, I've made mention that I'm not a huge fan of direct comic book adaptations into animated movies. Stuff like Gotham by Gaslight, Batman Hush, Death of Superman, Reign of the Supermen, / Superman Doomsday. Those kind of ones are like, they're not bad by any means, but they already existed in a different medium, and it's kind of going along that thought process of like, maybe a comic book for some reason isn't adequate enough. It needs to be made into a motion picture, which I don't totally agree with. Since I ran out of time to read The Long Halloween before I watched this movie, I kind of decided, screw it, I'm just gonna watch the movie without knowing like anything about Long Halloween except for the fact that there's Carmine Falcone in it because he has the scratches. That's all I remembered at all. That was the entirety of my knowledge of the comic, because I wanted to judge it as its own thing, this version of it, because even those other direct adaptations of comic books into movies, they change a bunch of stuff. Superman Red Son had a pretty big change and completely left out the ending of the comic book. I just wanted to judge this movie as the movie, pretending that it wasn't even connected to anything else. And I especially don't know how I feel about direct adaptations of comic books in a cinematic universe, which is sort of up for debate at the moment. Anytime that we or someone else brings it up on Twitter that Man of Tomorrow, Justice Society World War II, and this movie, plus I'm sure more in the future, are connected in the same universe, this new DCAmu, the tomorrowverse, whatever we're calling it, Gary or somebody will come on and be like, there is no timeline, there is no universe, what are you talking about? Which is probably just cheeky Gary, but you know, until there's something officially stated that they're in the same, I guess we'll just pretend, yeah, it's not. I gotcha, But for the sake of what I'm talking about here, when we had something like Death of Superman in the DCAmu, the DC animated movie universe, it always feels a little bit weird to me. Even the Justice League Unlimited episode for The Man Who Has Everything is almost directly ripped from a comic book. I think that one only works for me because it is so well written and so well adapted into the show, other than just Robin missing, but whatever. That embargoes be damned. And my nostalgia for JLU probably overwrites a little bit of critical thinking there. All that I'm trying to say with all of that is that Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 somehow, despite all of that, succeeds, I think, in being a good just standalone Batman animated movie. I think it will stand the test of time, like your Red Hoods, like your Dark Knight Returns, is among people's favorite animated Batman movies. That's just my initial take. I'm going to talk non-spoiler stuff real quick, and then we'll get into some more spoiler discussion. So this movie in general has been a long time coming. There were rumors for years that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill wanted to do both Batman Hush and this story as animated movies, with them playing Batman and Joker, of course. Obviously, they don't really have a say in whether they're going to be the ones to be a part of it, but I think, you know, since they're such classic Batman stories, everyone wanted to see their favorite Batman and Joker actors, understandably. So with that in mind, I do think it might have been a better standalone Batman movie as a legit standalone Batman movie with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill in the way that they did The Killing Joke.
Just maybe no Batgirl part, right? Am I right, you guys?
But Jensen Ackles as Batman was really great. He finally fulfilled his prophecy on Supernatural, saying he's Batman. Put the I'm Batman clip from Supernatural.
I'm Batman. Yeah, you're Batman.
But I also can't not hear Jason Todd's voice from under the red hood when he's talking.
In a way, Batman, this was the site of your first great failure.
He's kind of doing a little bit deeper for Batman, and I think it works.
22 caliber, taped handle,
Serial number filed off.
most of the time. And it'll also be really fun if we do get a Justice League team up. You know, we got Superman and Flash coming together in the end of JSA. If we get Batman looped into that, you know, he looks just like the Batman in Man of Tomorrow newspaper clipping. I'm just saying. If we do get a Justice League of some kind where Batman is Jensen Ackles the whole time, I will not complain whatsoever. But speaking of it potentially being in the same universe, regardless of whether it's literally in the same universe, it is in the same art style as the Man of Tomorrow and JSA movies. That sort of pseudo Archer, cell shaded, whatever you want to call it stuff. Maddie called it cell shaded in his Man of Tomorrow review because he thought that it was that sort of CGI to look like a cartoon cell shading. I kind of thought that too at first, but it turns out that it is legit hand-drawn 2D animation. It just kind of has that aesthetic to it, I guess. It's just like kind of teetering on the edge of how the volume of characters are represented, I guess you could say. But it is not the same art style as the original comic book, which has a lot of people upset for whatever reason. It seems to be a pretty common thing when they're adapting any comic book into an animated movie. We got the same complaints with Batman Hush being in the Phil Barassa art style, or with The Killing Joke being in a kind of Bruce Timmified version of the comic. It was definitely not the stark, high contrast colors of the Killing Joke comic book. Realistically, it always comes down to budget as far as I understand it. The Tim Sale art style is very detailed and a little bit loose in the line art, a little bit rough, but not rough in like bad, but rough in like the edges, you know? You know what I'm saying? It would be pretty difficult to adapt into animation, I think. A lot of the time when I pose that, the rebuttal I'll usually get is that we got movies like Batman Gotham Knight that had a bunch of different art styles. We got whatever that anime kind of, there was like a Bane Catwoman animated short of some kind that I'm completely blanking on right now. That was extremely stylized, very different than anything you'd ever seen before. Yes. Technically, but those are all shorter segments done by different animation studios, I would assume. Each, meanwhile, this is one movie, this is one package. It's definitely easier to just focus on doing it in a more simplified, streamlined animation style. That's half the reason the new Batman Adventures looked like it did, is because it was way easier to animate than they had been doing before. And I cannot imagine that animating, especially both two parts of The Long Halloween in a Tim Sale animation, I can't imagine that being not extremely expensive. I personally didn't have any problem with the animation in this. There were a couple of times where conversations felt a little bit stale, a little bit static, like people aren't moving while they're talking other than their lips, kind of a deal. But it kind of gives it a little bit of an anime kind of quality. There's even a part where Gordon's glasses go white for a second. That was kind of cool. I guess this is a spoiler, I'm sorry. But I can't really talk too much more about non-spoilers other than I really liked the movie. You should watch it. You should buy it. Let's move into spoilers. I'm guessing this is probably something from the original comic, and I know I sound like a complete idiot for just guessing. I should have just read the comic. I understand. I have a unique perspective, okay? Give me a break. But I really like the holiday title cards that come up. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve, or New Year's, whatever it says. Those were very stark, very emotional little moments, just freezing on the gun and the blood and Christmas or whatever. It was interesting. I know in the original comic, I do know a couple things. Gordon and his wife just have like one baby child. In this, you see Barbara and I think he calls him James. Like, are they both juniors, I guess? Anyway, we see Barbara, little Barbara, in this, in addition to her brother. And she is like super young, like maybe 8 maximum, 9, something like that. I don't know. So it'll be interesting if this universe does continue into another DCAmu of sorts. If we see her as Batgirl at some point, like maybe over the course of this Long Halloween movie, she will have aged enough to be like a teenager, and then that's sort of a feasible Batgirl age. I don't really know, but that was just something I took note of. Pre-Two-Face Harvey Dent is always kind of the notable, like, we are in early Batman days. We got that in Batman the Animated Series. It's here. It's in Oh God, it's in other stuff. And I really love the Two-Face like fake out. There's a part where he's just got his head and the music's building and building and there's a shadow and then he just turns and he has two normal halves of his face. Again, probably something that was in the comic. If it's not, it's starting to stray into one of those Gotham by Gaslight Hush related changes. Obviously we see Two-Face's Two-Face face, gross scarred face on the cover of The Long Halloween Part 2. So something is going to happen to make that happen. I'm going to go on a completely wacky fan theory limb here with my lack of knowledge of the original comic. I think the guy that is the shooter, actually, I'm redacting this as I'm saying it. Here was my original idea. My original thought was that somehow Harvey Dent is two different personalities. Okay, I'm changing it as I'm saying it also. Harvey Dent is two different personalities, but not going to be physically Two-Face. Because the explosion happened, you would think that they're not going to do a second explosion or something. Like, why would you do the fake out and then the real one? I think the fake out is, he has those couple of lines, I'm only one man kind of a deal. And he says some other line very similar to that near the start that was kind of a cheeky, like, he's Two-Face kind of line.
Jesus. Why can't you be more like...
More like who? I'm only one man.
I can't do this.
I think he is Harvey Dent, and the shooter, the holiday killer, is technically also him, but his second personality. Now, again, I'm showing my hand here at not having read the comic. Maybe that's exactly what it is in the comic. I do not know. Leave me alone. But if that's not what it is in the comic, then I've just come up with a cool thing. Because my original thought was that somehow he had physically split into two bodies and that the scarred version of him was the shooter. But at the end of the movie, we do see a decent close-up of his eyes and he doesn't have any sort of scarring. Gilda Dent, his wife, is voiced by Julie Nathanson, who voiced Ro on the Zeta Project. So that was kind of neat. She was a pretty interesting character. Not exactly sure what's going on with her, but I'm excited to see more of that relationship in the next one. I also, speaking of lines that I liked, the Bruce Wayne Selina Kyle banter on the ship, on the cruise ship, or on the yacht, I should say. The we're two different people and I'll see you on the other side, that stuff, that was really neat. It was just barely not like a cheesy, like, because you guys are Batman and Catwoman. I get it. It was good. It was well written. Good job, Tim Sheridan. I had to look up that you were the writer of this. I was 99% sure that you were, but I didn't want to get it wrong. And Chris Palmer, director, if you had a hand in any of this stuff that I like that I'm saying. As far as the voice actors go, there wasn't really anyone else that stood out as like a breakout, like awesome thing to me. There was some really good stuff with Calendar Man, who's voiced by the guy whose name I'm never going to be able to say right. He was in The Dark Knight and he's Polka Dot Man in the upcoming The Suicide Squad. Also, I thought... Side note, I guess, I thought it was kind of funny, we see Joker dressing a Christmas tree with skulls and stuff at Harvey Dent's house, and he's singing a Christmas song, and he's doing that for a good 30 seconds before Harvey Dent actually comes in and they interact. And then right after that, Batman learns that the Joker has terrorized, I think they said 3 other families named Dent, because he was looking for the right one, I guess.
A Santa Clown has reportedly terrorized 3 families today. Sir, they were all named Dent.
So I really like imagining that Joker was just dressing a Christmas tree and singing to himself in 3 other people's houses, and then they come in and oh, God damn it, you're not the right one. And murder's funny. Now I'm on record saying that. And then the Calendar Man scene itself was really well boarded, really well shot. I don't know if this is on purpose. Tim, I'll give you credit if it was. We're outside of his cell with Batman and Gordon while they're talking to him. As soon as Calendar Man gets the upper hand in the conversation, once he knows something they don't, the camera is now inside his cell as if he has the high ground conversationally. I thought that was a really nice touch from a cinematic standpoint. Good job. There was a lot of really good cinematic moments in this. We've seen on social media how they had a lot of Citizen Kane influences with this, and then just even even though we aren't in the Tim Sale art style, they are drawing a lot of the original comics aesthetic, atmosphere, darkness, whatever you want to call it. I'm a big fan of these more rooted in Gotham City Batman stories. Batman Soul of the Dragon recently, 70s, it's in Japan, all this kind of stuff. And of course, I like all of the Justice League stories that go to space or they go to a different country, blah, blah, blah. But getting this kind of, Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy kind of thing again is a little bit refreshing. It's been a while since we've had like modern day Batman, the city is a character type of movie. So thank you. Some may say that that's overdone and they don't want to see that again. They want to see all this other stuff, which is totally valid and cool also, but I do like, I'm probably a little bit biased right now because I just started rewatching Batman the Animated Series from the start for a new podcast that we're doing. Look out for that soonish. Okay, last thing I'll talk about is DCAU References. Was not expecting as many as there were, or any I was not expecting. That's a sentence. When we're in the Batcave, one of the scenes, there's like a big flutter of bats that come out of the ground. It's the like exact same sound effect that they used for fluttering bats. Same with Batman's batarangs. They have the same, I think it's just the Justice League Unlimited batarang throwing sound effect. It's the same one that they used here. So both of those moments were very like, oh, to my ears, like, thank you. That makes me feel good and childlike. The Arkham Asylum sign and like zigzag road leading up to the building, and maybe even the building itself, I feel like might have all been the Batman the Animated Series designs, or like 80% there, like used as a reference, as a template going forward. That was really cool. But the Batmobile, I will put money on that is the new Batman Adventures Batmobile. Like, exactly, literally the Batmobile from the new Batman Adventures. Just like how they kind of transformed it into CGI with the Batwing in Batman and Harley Quinn, or in Sub-Zero also. I think they did that with the Batmobile and Batman and Harley Quinn for a few shots also. But, we've seen plenty of Batmobiles throughout different Batman stuff. I'm sure it didn't look exactly like this in the original comic. I think it fit pretty well with the rest of the art style of this movie. It didn't stick out as like, why am I looking at the TNBA Batmobile? And obviously, as someone who really likes those shows, it was pretty cool to see. Now, Tim Sheridan, if you can somehow get me the file of that Batmobile so that I can use it for things in our videos. And lastly, I'm sure this is something from the comic, but Grundy living in the sewer, Solomon Grundy. Solomon? Did I say Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday. Him being in the sewer reminded me a lot of Wake the Dead, Justice League Unlimited, which that itself may have been a reference to the Long Halloween. I don't know. I haven't read it, as previously stated many times. Therefore, my entire opinion in this video is moot. Go away. So I think that's it. I thought it was kind of fun. The ending of the movie was a little less cliffhanger-y than I wish it would have been. Definitely still looking forward to part 2 and really want to see where the mystery goes from here. But I think they might have benefited from ending it on maybe more of a, Batman confronts the dude on the yacht and then, he gets shot and you see the actual killer and then close up of Batman and then cut to black or something like that. It's a little anticlimactic with him just being like, now we gotta go find the real one. Slow pan up to the sky. Hold on the sky for just a little bit too long. And then the credits. I'm being picky, but it could have been maybe a little bit more impactful there if it had. I don't really know what else I would have changed it to. I already gave my one idea. I hope part 2 does not go the Hush route of completely changing who the actual villain is from the comic. I think maybe they've learned their lesson from how many people complained about that. They should just do what the comic did if they're going to adapt it. If you didn't do what the comic did, also, I won't care because I haven't read the comic. Obviously, there is stuff cut out from the comic for this movie. The opening titles showing kind of more of a montage of things happening kind of clued me into that. Like, this was probably the first issue or 2 maybe of this was bits that could be told very quickly, and then they took a lot of time to tell you the important stuff that they wanted to show you. I think that and splitting it into 2 parts means that they can really take take their time on the important stuff, draw it out. There was a lot of moments in this movie that I could tell would have been shortened by several seconds, several shots missing had this just been one movie. So I am glad that they're doing 2 parts, for the sake of that. But the actual end of the movie is the post-credits scene, which I won't ruin just in case you somehow watched the whole movie but forgot or didn't know that there was a post-credits scene. Go watch it. That's a lot better of a cliffhanger than the real ending, or this is the real ending. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about Batman The Long Halloween #1. I liked it. Where does it land among my top 10 animated Batman movies? Nothing's ever gonna beat Mask of the Phantasm, Return of the Joker either, probably. I can't think of all of them right this second, but it's pretty high up there. Out of all the DC animated movies over the years, I think I would probably rank this one up near the kind of New Frontier level, where it's a really good adaptation as far as I know, as far as I understand, but the creative team managed to adapt it in a way that keeps all the good stuff, the stuff that you want to see moving, and it's just good, okay? What else you want me to say? If you haven't caught our Pride Month video that came out last week, go watch that right now. Also, a bunch of other recent videos have been doing pretty well. Our Joel Schumacher video, our Hawk Girl video, lots of good stuff all around. Next week is a video about Miss Martian, and then after that, I believe, is our BTAC issue 2/Justice League Infinity issue 1, baby! Coverage, breakdown, Easter eggs, timeline, blah, blah, blah. You're gonna like it. This is James signing off. Kiss all of your dads, every single dad that is your dad. Kiss him on the lips right this second. And I will see you the next time that I'm in a video, which is next week. Bye.